Hey everybody, I'm Ben Scott with Grit Properties, agent for Weston, Maine here in Oklahoma City with the 6 things you need to consider before turning your investment property into an Airbnb. Now I've always been curious about Airbnb and I've heard how many landlords are making really good money on the platform, so I thought I'd dive into that to start of 2020. I did a 1031 exchange on another rental property I had. I bought this 3-bed, 1-bath property over in Northeast Oklahoma City by the OU Medical Center, which leads me to the number one thing you need to consider before making your property an Airbnb is location. Now, of course, location sounds very obvious as it pertains to real estate, but I mean more location as to think about who your potential tenants will be. A good place to be by is hospitals, medical centers, any place that offers contract employment, because those people need a place to stay and they can't sign multi-month leases and they need a really nice place to stay for a week or even up to 30 days. Medical professionals, and really any professionals, they're often rule followers, which is good. They take care of the property and they're not there that much because they're at their job so much, which puts less wear and tear on the home. So what I really liked about this home was the loft. You see that very steep ladder leading up to a loft that the people who remodeled this home built over the garage. And I thought that'd be a really cool nook for an Airbnb, something a little different that most properties don't offer. And it was actually a good thing for me because the sellers were trying to sell this as an FHA property and they weren't getting credit for the square footage over the garage because the ladder was too steep, so the home wasn't appraising. So I got a pretty good deal on this property and also got to throw in all the appliances. So I got a washer, dryer, refrigerator, oven, including all the furniture. Some of it was good, some of it was bad, and I've recycled in some of my own stuff, but it allowed me to start pretty quick to turn this into an Airbnb property on day one. The second thing you need to consider before turning your investment property into an Airbnb is insurance. Now there's of course more risk with a short-term rental than a standard rental property. You need to check with your insurance company and see what type of rate you'll be offered on your Airbnb, or even if your insurance company offers insurance policies on short-term rentals, because you don't want to have that liability if the insurance company says, well, who was in your property when something happened, and you say, well, it was an Airbnb short-term rental, they might not cover that damage. The third thing you need to consider before turning your property into an Airbnb is your rent versus expenses. With investment properties, it's pretty typical. You have cash flow, which is your rent minus any expenses you have, which could be your mortgage, insurance, and taxes. A little different with an Airbnb because you're covering all the utilities, electric, water, gas, and you really need high-speed internet. My average expenses on this property for the first 8 months are $961, and my mortgage is only $542. So you can see it's quite a bit more than what just your typical renter property would be as it pertains to expenses. Do your research on the rent that properties in your area can command and make sure your projected rent will cover your expenses. The fourth thing you need to know about turning your property into an Airbnb is how to vet your guests. I've been burned enough times over this first 8 months to really suss out who's a legit tenant and who's not. Of course, any ratings on the platform is a plus, but when somebody reaches out through the Airbnb platform inquiring about renting your property, whether it be for 3 days or 30 days, ask what the nature of their stay is. Now, when I first entered this Airbnb project, I had people scheduling stays for the Cher concert, for the Oklahoma City Marathon, for the Arts Festival, and of course that went away with COVID. And so for March and April, it was a struggle. It was vacant quite a few days here and there, and my quality of tenant went down considerably. It wasn't the person in town for an event. It now became somebody who needed a place to squat for a few days because they had been displaced from wherever they'd been previously, whether it be an apartment or a home or a family member. I had one guy who rented the place for 4 days so he could give his girlfriend a place to stay, so his wife didn't know about it. The fifth thing you need to consider when turning your property into an Airbnb is you need to leave reviews, especially for those that take really good care of your property. Reviews are everything on the Airbnb platform, and it's a way to legitimize the hosts and the guests. And if you leave them a nice review, they'll most likely leave you a nice review, which makes your place more attractive to potential other guests. And the final thing you need to consider before turning your property into an Airbnb is an exit strategy. If something goes south, kind of like COVID, you need to have a plan. Are you going to rent this place out, just a conventional rental? Do you need to move in? Is there a third option you could do in case Airbnb isn't working out if the expenses aren't meeting the rent? So always consider a worst case scenario for an exit strategy before turning that into an Airbnb. My name is Ben Scott with Grit Properties, agent for Weston, Maine here in Oklahoma City. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'd like to see your comments and of course hit the like button if you'd like. Thanks for watching and have a great day.